G'day there, ladies and ladies. Welcome back to another episode of Why I Hate the Pokedex. After reading the title, you probably are wondering why I could hate one Pokemon in particular. What crimes has this creature done to be the focus of a hate video about the Pokedex, of all things? Well, I shall explain my frustrations, and maybe by the end you will also hate the Pokemon Nidoran. At least, in terms of what I'm doing. You see, in Pokemon, typically each species has its own designated number. Variants within said species, such as shinies, different forms, and other cosmetic changes such as gender differences, are still designated to that number. There is, of course, one exception to this rule, that being Nidoran. Rather than having two similar names for these Pokemon, Game Freak decided to have a male and female version of the same Pokemon. This is before gender was introduced in Gen 2, so to make it clear that they are designed to be a couple, the male and female symbol were thrown at the end of Nidoran. And so speaking the name requires you to say Nidoran male or Nidoran female, respectively. This isn't that bad on paper. They are different but similar. What's the problem? Well, if each number is a different species, then it makes no sense to have these two as the same, just with a gender symbol. Bear in mind that this design never repeats itself, even when there are gender differences. Some of the Pokemon on screen now have different designs between the genders, and yet they share the same Pokedex number. We aren't having an unpresent male or pyro female in the Pokedex. It really just makes no sense. Now, perhaps there's something you might question if this is possible in terms of coding. Maybe this is a relic of the past and they can't possibly fix. Okay, then let's take a look at some evolution lens and see if it's possible. Here we have the ideal Nidoran family. Based on the Nidoran's gender, we'll force it down one of two paths, either Nidoking or Nidoqueen. The first hurdle is this first evolution. Is there another Pokemon that has different evolutions based on gender? Well, looking at gender evolutions, which was introduced in Generation 4, there is usually a trend. They typically take on the Frostlass approach or the Vespiquen approach. With Frostlass's case, all members of Snorunt can evolve into Glalie, with only female Snorunt able to have Frostlass as an alternative evolution. This applies also to Gallade, which means that yes, Gardevoir can be male. This is likely to be because of transferring being an option, where Gardevoir and Glalie were able to be male or female, so it makes sense when transferring that the gender is kept. Now the other approach is Vespiquen, where only one gender of a species is capable of evolving, such as the female Combee. Male Combees will not evolve no matter what. This also applies to Salandit and Basculin, but there is one Pokemon that evolved into two different Pokemon based off its gender, and that is Burmy. Females will always evolve into Lemdam, and males will always evolve into Mothim. There's no choice. Its evolution has already been decided. And so Nidoran could evolve down these paths similar to Burmy. But wait, this structure of a Pokemon family isn't in the game, right? Sure, we can have one branching evolution, but another evolution based off this branch is impossible, right? Again, no, we do have an example of a similar evolution family in another bug type, Wurmple. You see, Wurmple has a split evolution, based off a value that is hidden, mind you, into either Silcoon or Cascoon, and then can evolve further into its final forms. Instead of a hidden value, having it based off a visual symbol such as gender should be better in terms of its implementation. There really is no way that these can't be combined. But wait, what about another reason, such as move pool? After all, Nidoran male has more of a horn than Nidoran female. I guess that's the case close then. Once again, we have another gender Pokemon that has such differences in Meowstic. Meowstic learns a lot of moves in common between its genders, but the male side has more of a focus on support moves, and the female side has more of a focus on damaging moves. Something similar could easily, well, I don't know how easy it could be, per se, but it could be implemented. Putting these families together, it should be possible to have the Pokedex mirror the gameplay. I don't know which gen it could be implemented. Game Freak aren't exactly known for their coding, at least not nowadays. So what do I mean by mirroring gameplay? Well, when gendered exclusive Pokemon breed with their gendered counterpart, the egg can be of either species. Typically, the egg is only of the female species, which is why Pokedex family can only breed with Ditto. Don't ask me how that works. But with Pokemon like Tauros and Miltank, or Volbeat and Illumise, breeding these pairs results in either offspring. The same is true for Nidoking and Nidoqueen. That being said, Nidoqueen for some reason has no egg root, and so can't breed. Perhaps this is why they are separate species, but it's more likely a bug than it is intended. I can understand why Nidoran was like this in the first generation. Without genders, they wanted to convey the idea of a Pokemon family by having a clearly male Pokemon with a clearly female counterpart. Even it makes you question how Tauros is a thing for example. But with all this out of the way, why are they not changing Nidoran to be a single Pokedex number? I can understand Gen 2 as you could transfer from Gen 1 to Gen 2, and so having different data might be awkward. But in Generation 3, the Pokemon were kind of recreated from the ground up. The new IVs and EV system meant that while the Game Boy Advance could connect a Gen 2 game and a Gen 3 game, the data meant that transferring was impossible. This means that this would be the spot for a soft reboot of the Pokedex, except there's sadly one big reason as to why it's never changed. Ask any Pokemon fan how many Pokemon are in Gen 1, and you will get the answer of 151. 151. 151. The Pokemon was huge back then, and that number is a calling card for the kids' nostalgia. Put simply, 151 is a simple marketing thing, and they would also alter to 251 on Johto, and so on and so forth. Perhaps they did have the technology to change it, but for external to the game reasons, decided to keep it that way. Nidoran would stay separated to prey upon nostalgia, and that is why I hate the Pokedex, because external reasons get in the way of internal world building, and that is why I feel disappointment whenever I see Nidoran. If you ask me, how many Pokemon in Gen 1 are there? As much as it is incorrect, I would say 151. My frustration, my video will not quell the Gen 1 rumors, so hear the number and buy the next game we met. In any case, thank you for watching. I'll see you later.